Welcome to the 7 Cents Podcast, where we go beyond dollars and cents to unlock the mindset beyond the money.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Mike Macklin, aka Money Mike, the financial Thanos, because I'm snapping my fingers and I'm turning your financial problems to dust.
And I'm Coach RL, your money mindset coach. Mind right, money right, legacy locked in.
Guys, this is not your average financial podcast. We're breaking down money myths, mindset traps, and economic game plans.
We keep it real, raw, and relevant, from micro money moves to macro financial shifts.
This is a 7 Cents podcast where your mind meets your money.
Hey, welcome to the 7 Cents. I am back with some more bullshit for your brain. Definitely. I'm here with my co-host, Money Mike. Hey, we about to cook today, bro. We about to cook. Another hot topic, and per usual, we're gonna jump right in. Is buying a home in America still the American dream? Is that the dream that we all dream of today? So that's the conversation that we're gonna have today, and I am very interested in your take. I have a few hot takes, but nothing that don't make sense.
Okay.
So let's start with the historical context. We initially were taught, hey, you go to school. I think I said this is probably like 8 episodes at this point. Go to school, get a job, buy a home, do a 15, 30-year mortgage on that home, and then live happily ever after. Something happens to you, you pass the home to your kids. Today, in today's market, is that still, let me ask you, is that still a smart idea? And is it still the American dream now of home ownership to actually live in it?
All right, so I'm gonna start off by saying this. You touched on it, but let's go like this. Okay, so most folks, first off, they don't realize when you get in a house, what you're doing is you're doing a bank a huge favor, because you're basically creating a 30-year income stream for the bank. So essentially that's what the mortgage is. Now, because of things like amortization, you paying the interest basically before you really start paying for that house. And like the first 10 to 15 years, you just basically putting money into the bank's pocket. That's the reality of that. I'm gonna get into some other thoughts on this, but that's my initial thing, is that you have to look at buying a house for what it really is. It's not as big of a favor to you as most people think that it is. And I'll talk about why that is, but just up front, the numbers of it doesn't work out in your favor. So I'll start off by saying that, and we'll go from there, brother.
Yeah, so I would tell you this. So over the last probably 30 years, the houses have increased over 40%. What's crazy about this is it used to make sense to be able to buy your house, do a 30-year, and then pass it down in your family. But the fact of the matter is the houses aren't even built at the same quality as they used to be built at. They're not using bricks and building basements. They're massively manufacturing neighborhoods in 15 minutes, it seems, and then still locking you into that same 30-year rate with way more maintenance than you used to have to deal with. Let's talk about the advantage points of home ownership, and then what's the flexibility in home ownership and what that should look like in today's market.
Okay, so advantages of a home ownership, it depends on who you're looking at. Again, I touched on it at the beginning. The real benefactor, honestly, is the bank. But to keep this, I don't want to make this a negative show, so I will put a positive spin on this. Where it becomes something in your favor is when you buy the home smartly. And what I mean by that is what you want to be looking for in that house is you want to be looking for something called equity or appreciation. You want to be going into this in a positive place, meaning, let's say you buy a house, like right now, the average house is going for about probably 300 if you're lucky. So let's say you get that house at 300 and you walk into it with maybe, we'll be generous and say like 50, 60,000 in equity. Let's say maybe they value it at 360 when you first get it. That puts you in a good place if you understand strategically what to do with that equity. If you're just there living in the house, and expenses, and yeah, that's not a good place for you. But if you understand certain advantages, and again, I'll talk about this later just to not take over the conversation. But if you start using specific strategies with this, that home can definitely be something that puts you in a fantastic financial position. I'll use a few examples. You can rapidly pay off some debt with that equity. You could even possibly purchase other homes to where those homes pay for the house that you staying in. So there are definitely advantages, but unfortunately, the average person doesn't look at it like that. The average person looks at a house as what they were taught to look at it as. This is like the dream. This is where I'm going to be here forever. I'm going to raise my children. I'm going to create all these great memories, which is wonderful. But you're letting the euphoria take away the real purpose of what that house is for. And it's unfortunately putting you in a place where it's becoming more of a money pit than the dream that you were sold.
And you know where a lot of it gets diluted is in the market today. There are people who have bought those homes 20, 30 years ago and they still own those homes. And now the market is going crazy now, but the market has always been going crazy. But now it just depends on the location. Hey, we're building an Amazon here, or we're building a new EV factory here. And now the house value is going insane. And so to some other people, it still looks the game plan. From what you know from the historical context of how these properties are gaining value and what that looks like for the future, what would be a strategy that you would give someone who's looking at this from a different cognitive bias, or what we call recency bias, and they see what's happening now and allow them to understand that that strategy may not be the same from 30 years from now, or will it? That's the question.
I'll say this. The strategy I would use doing this, and I hope I'm not jumping too far ahead, but I would, first and foremost, if I'm going to purchase a house, I'm not living in that house. I'm going to let somebody else live in that house, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this house into what the bank and what other investors do. I'm going to turn this into a cash flow producing asset. So my outlook on this house, first and foremost, I'm taking the emotion out of it. The American dream has nothing to do with my financial plan. That's the American dream. I'm not America. I'm Money Mike. So that has nothing to do with me. So I'm looking at it from my standpoint. So I'm like, okay, what is this house for me? This house is for me is a tool to pay off where I stay or other debts that I may have, bad debt, not good debt. So my plan going into getting this house would be, I want to get it as low a cost as possible. So that means if the house isn't so great looking at the beginning, maybe some things need to be done to it. That's fine. Especially if I get a real estate agent involved with somebody that can say, hey, listen, this house in this neighborhood could be worth this much. Yeah, it's ugly right now, but it could be worth $400,000, $500,000 if you clean it up. So I want to get it for the low, put a little bread into it to make it look nice, which is going to also appreciate the value of it, because you've put what's called sweat equity into the home by making it look better. And then once I get the home looking like I need it to, or get somebody renting it out, because I don't want to be the one paying that bill. I don't have a problem with debt, because when I have debt, I'm not going to be the one paying it. Somebody else is going to pay it. So that's what the house is going to be for me. It's going to be a tool to produce money. Now, what I'm going to do with another house is I'll rent another house. Or another idea I had kicked around, and a lot of people do, is get yourself a duplex. Get yourself basically 2 doors in one. You stay on one side of it. You let the tenant stay on the other side. Don't never let the tenant meet you or know that you own the place. You do it that way. That way your rent is being paid by that tenant. You're also gaining equity. You're also getting everything you need to do. And that is how I would approach the whole home buying process. Is I would, again, approach this as an investment that's going to put money in my pocket. Of course, the bank is going to get what they get, but I want to position myself to where not only the bank is benefiting from this, but also I am. And also, I'm not the one that's footing the bill on this. Yeah, we can have a 30-year mortgage. That's fine. But I don't want to be the one paying for it.
I think that's really good. I think that genuinely should be the strategy. The other thing is, in today's market, you definitely need to get out of the 30-year game. Like, it's never been beneficial for anybody, not even the high interest rates. And we even talk about now, you used to be able to get a house at 3-4%. Now we're looking at 6-7%, and like 6-7% over 30 years. Like, the math is, that's a debt trap. That's a debt trap for real. And a lot of people are riding that trap just to get in a house because they still have this preconceived notion that the American dream is I buy a house and I continue to pay and I live in this monotonous life. And again, that may be for some people, but I would definitely say if you take a step back and you understand the value of your own money and what the market is and where we are going, you might want to reconsider your strategy because you're footing the bill for other people's stuff. You're definitely just going to be footing the bill for others, especially the bank. The bank is eating off the fat of the land. The state with property taxes are eating off the fat of the land. The mortgage company, excuse me, not the mortgage company because that's the bank, but the insurance company, they're going to get theirs because
Oh yeah.
that California thing threw me for a whole, that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But the insurance company going to get theirs. Even strategize their way out of getting out of some shit. But again, that one throws me for a loop. But yeah, definitely get out of these 30-year deals. If you really feel like I need to own a home, the first thing you should definitely consider is getting out of the 30-year game and putting yourself into a position where you're able to afford the 15 because it's easier. You don't necessarily lock yourself into the home if you don't plan on living there forever. And then at the end of the day, you can do a 15 and then add more to it, pay it off in 10. And now you actually do have an asset, right? And that does bump up your net worth a whole lot once you own that home. But let's get into, I think I talked about the 15 year. Let's get into really personal home buying story. I would say for me, initially, we did get into a 30. And I think that was probably at the time when we bought it was the most strategic thing for us to do. Hear me out. But after living in it for 2 years, renting it out for 2 years, and looking at the 30 and what we can now make, looking at the neighborhood, because that's what we did. We looked at the neighborhood and was like, all right, so this would be the specific average rent. Now, mind you, that average rent is double what we would pay as just simply the mortgage. And so as it being an asset, it's a rental property now. As it being an asset, now I'm looking at a strategy. What's the quickest way to pay this house off? And the quickest way to pay this house off is charge, and not necessarily the maximum amount because we're not charging the maximum amount a month, but on the high end, pay the mortgage and then take the extra money and then pay the principal. And then we'll probably end up getting around 17 to 18 years of getting it paid off as opposed to paying a minimum. It was a strategy that me and my wife really came up with after looking at what we still owed after those 3 years. Like bought the home for 200. You look back 2 years, you like, why does it still say 298? Like the money ain't moving. And it's basically from the principle that what you're saying is like all of that money is going towards interest, bro. You're not paying nothing down. If you're not paying directly towards the principal, you're not paying nothing down. And so you sit here and paying. You look back because you get your, what is it, a 1098? I think you get a 1098T if I'm not mistaken. And you look at your 1098T and it shows you all of the amount that you pay for your home all year. And you look and you like, I paid 11,000. And then you go back and you look at what your home is actually worth and you're like, wait, this math don't make no sense. What are we doing here? And so looking at those strategies allowed us to dive a little bit deeper into a better strategy. And again, the first strategy was get the hell out that house. And then let's get into making it an asset and how can it pay itself off and what's the quickest way we can get it paid off so it can become an asset. But I think another piece to that is the quality of your home. We bought one house that was mainly brick on the outside and had some good foundation. And then the other house I'm talking about was it was reasonably old, had some good bones. But I think that one is probably going to be the bigger headache because as you get into another 10 years, and we probably sell it before the end, but even in 10 years, how much more maintenance that we have to put into the house is going to be like our biggest challenge. But let me ask you, Mike, have you had any personal stories that align to the American dream at home buying, or does your strategies always been a little bit different from the inception of your plan?
No, at the beginning, I drank the Kool-Aid just like everybody else. I got into, and it's funny because I even argued the point. I looked at a lot of stuff. I'm a huge YouTube consumer, first and foremost, and I'm always looking at content. I'm always listening at new ideas and things like that. And I was visiting the age old argument of the whole renting versus purchasing a house. And I had in my mind that basically it made more sense to buy a house at that time. I had nowhere near the insights or the mindset that I have now. I was towards the end of my Army career. I had recently got married. I was basically doing what America wanted me to do: find a wife, find a house, all that good stuff. And I was basically convincing myself that this is what you're supposed to do. This is the smarter move, because I was stuck in the whole mindset of, if I rent, I'm basically just paying somebody's mortgage. And I was satisfied with the decision at the beginning, because something I didn't consider, and that what really changed my mind about the whole buying versus renting concept, is just some of the options that get taken away when you buy versus renting. A lot of people may or may not notice about me. They probably don't, but I'm very nomadic. Very. I like to move around, just because I don't know what it is about me. It's like I cannot sit still. Part of it is the Army's fault, because they moved me around like Jesus, probably 6-7 times in the 20 years I was there. And it may be more. I'm just off the top of my head what I remember. But I was always nomadic. And the problem with having that house, a lot of times that becomes, it's almost like when you have a dog, you know what I'm saying? And you're trying to go on a trip. Now you got to find somebody to watch this dog or board it or whatever. And I had a similar experience with the house. Is okay, I'm getting ready to go somewhere else. So now what do I do with this house? And at the time, again, I didn't have the strategic mindset to say, you know what, hey, I could rent this house out to somebody, let them pay this mortgage for a little while, and go rent something else. I was just so stuck on the have to have a house, I have to own this, all that stuff, that I feel like I was missing the forest for the trees, if that makes sense. And that was my initial experience with home buying. Is I thought it was a good decision because of, again, what I was sold. And once I really start reading up on it and understanding what the wealthy and what smarter options are out there, I really found myself like in that whole hindsight is 2020 thing. Like I was kicking myself in the ass, like, man, you really should have put more thought into this. But as they say, you know better, you do better. So now that's why I'm here. That's why we're here, just talking to people about the alternatives and what they could be doing, and the reality of the home ownership situation, especially in America.
Do you have so let me ask you this. What are your feelings? I don't say feelings. Let me take it back from feelings. What is your thoughts on renting versus buying? What do you think people should do? And then is that strategy different for different people?
Yes, it's definitely different from different people, but I will honestly say this. The best thing to do is, honestly, in my opinion, again, this is my opinion. Y'all down in the comments, whatever y'all have to say about this, by all means, hey, look, let's talk about it. But my opinion is better to rent. And I'm going to talk from my situation, from what I do. First and foremost, the numbers in renting versus buying make more sense to me, because yes, you're paying someone's mortgage, and I'm sure they're factoring in certain digits into that rent payment. However, you have one bill when you're renting. You just have the rent, versus when you get a mortgage, it's not just the mortgage. Rob touched on this earlier. You're getting the mortgage, you're getting the insurance, you're getting the property taxes, you're getting the maintenance. Now, as a renter, you don't have those expenses. If something happens to that place, that's not on you. That's on the owner of that place. So, he or she deals with that. And also, a lot of times renting, you can get a lot more house now renting than you can actually owning it, just because of, again, factoring in all the cost together. And then the second part of that is the home ownership piece. Like I said earlier, the home ownership piece is more of a long-term investment strategy. I look at it almost like the equivalent of how people look at IRAs or Ks, where you putting money into something for X amount of years and you looking to get a return on that. And that's the approach I take to purchasing homes now. Rob touched on this earlier too. I don't fall in love with houses. Like, I take all the emotion out of it. Like, this is like my money, a house is a tool for me. And the main reason for that, and I'm gonna try to keep this brief because I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but I feel like it's important. When you really look at a house, how long are you really there? like in reality, especially considering like what's going on right now with the job market, everything that you touched on earlier. How long are you actually there? You go to work for 8 hours. You know what I'm saying? You go on vacations, you do different things, you out and about. You're not really there that long. So what are you really getting from putting all this money into this place that you have to repair? You got to deal with all the headaches, and you're not leveraging it the right way. And another thing that happens because of this house now you have to, and it's because you don't plan. And I'm not, I don't want to sound negative in this, but I really want people to really start thinking about this process. What happens when you get this house now, most people, what they do is now they have to go find a job that's going to pay them to be able just to make this payment. That's just a payment. And most of the time, that's all you're getting. You're going to get just enough to make the payment. So now you're trapped in this place that you barely ever there, and you can't even really enjoy it no more, because now you've fallen into the real trap of, okay, hey, look, the debtor, I think is the term. If I say this quote wrong, y'all can correct me, but the debtor is the slave to the lender. So you've basically putting yourself in that situation now, because you want these people that you think like you, or you think they care, to look at you and come in your house and say, oh, this is the greatest place I've ever been to in my life. And the problem with that is you're putting yourself in a position now, all of your flexibility is pretty much gone, because now you have to find a job that's going to allow you to pay for that place. Now you're getting into things like the commutes. And I'll use myself as an example. I had to drive an hour and a half every day back and forth from my house to work, because I was stationed at Fort Bragg, and I lived in Raleigh, which was like an hour and some change away from there. And that ties into the error that I made in the home buying experience, as well as, the trap a lot of people fall in. A lot of people now are commuting like ridiculous distances from their house to work a job so that they can pay for the house. So now again, you're never there, but you paying all this money for it just for somebody to say, hey, look, oh, this is a great looking house. You're doing well for yourself. I hope I didn't get too
Right, and that's
far
it.
all over the place, but
Nah, not at all.
that's
I'll give you
basically
my
my outlook on it.
experience. My experience is a little bit different, right? For my family, my family dynamics a little bit different. So having a bigger
Yeah.
house and a bigger home, for bigger families, it is more advantageous to buy homes. The reason is because number one, when you got a lot of kids, your kids tear shit up. And we talk about the maintenance that's covered by renters. That same maintenance ain't covered the damage that the kids do, the holes in the walls and the toys in the toilet and shit like that. So it's better for us to own a home, because when we tear up our shit, we tear up our shit. We're not tearing up
Right.
somebody else's shit. And it's fine if that is covered in insurance, but there ain't too many insurances out here that's gonna say, go ahead, tear down their house and we'll cover and we'll fit the bill for that. The other piece of buying homes for us larger families makes a little bit more sense is for that same strategy, is that we can go in and we not necessarily locked into the home, because we live in here 2-3 years, then we up and move. Now we got a little bit more work to do with getting a property manager, getting it rent out, or getting it actually sold. But at the end of the day, now we can stack an asset without us having to pay for it. Now, do we do that on a more strategic level? Absolutely, because what we're not about to do is buy these 10-man houses that's going to break themselves in 3 or 4 years and then be a pile of sticks after this 30 year. We look for a healthier foundation house. We look at the year that is built, ensure that it's not too old, ensure that we can look at it and see potential to build it in a modern aspect where you can enjoy the house. Because I think Kansas is one of those places. North Carolina, there's a few places in Virginia as well. They have these plantation style homes and they look gorgeous just the way they are, even though they were built in 1856, 1996. They're old, very old houses. And regardless of when they were built, they still hold potential to, as long as it got good bones, it makes it a good investment. And when you look inside of the kitchen and look inside of the space and see how open the space is, that may cost you a couple of bucks to modernize the building. But at the end of the day, like I'm saying, is it has good bones. It turns into a good investment for larger families, because not only can we get in here and make it the way we want it to, but we can tear this bitch down, build it back up, and reflip it and repackage it however we see fit. Before we close out though, try not to get too ahead of the schedule. No, that was really good. Damn, did I get way ahead of the schedule? I sure did.
Sorry, we'll make it
That's
work.
too
We'll
funny.
make it work. Don't worry about it.
I think we just kind of leave off with this question, and I would say, what would you tell the viewers your your perspective of does your dream life look like life without a mortgage?
For me, I'm gonna try to answer this as completely as possible because again, we talk more strategic than the average. So
Yeah.
a lot of you know what? I'm just gonna say it. I hate saying this answer, but it depends. It just depends. It depends because I'm going to use the dialogue we just had. I made the argument for renting. You made the argument for buying based off of family dynamics. Right now, it's just Money Mike. It's Money Mike. I'm adding some people to the family here soon based on some different life changes for me, but it's still going to make sense for my situation to continue to rent. The perspective I would tell somebody to look at this from is first off, look at your situation. If you have a large family, most rental communities are not going to be favorable to you because there's not a ton of 5, 6 room apartments that's going to be available. So renting may not be an option for you. So to that, I would say, if you have to purchase a home, one, you may want to look at a home that may need some work at the beginning to lower that cost for you. Stay somewhere else for a little bit. Maybe stay with some family members or something like that. It might be a little inconvenient at the beginning. They might be like, look, how long you gonna be here? But no, it's more economical. It makes more sense. Get a place that might not necessarily be the dream house just yet. Work on it. Turn it into your dream. That's the thing about it. A lot of people don't understand. They think they have to fall into this rigid kind of thing of where it just has to be perfect walking into it. You can make it into what you want it to be. So get something that might be a little bit beat up. Like Rob said, got some good bones, is going to stand up the test of time, was made properly, things like that, and make it look like you want it to look. Because now, hey, you got your payment where you want it to be. And there's even programs out there where they'll assist you with getting the place up to par and getting it looking good. I think the FHA has like I think it's a 20B or 203K. I can't remember what it's called right now, where basically they'll give you the money not only to get the house, but they'll also give you the money to renovate it and make it look better. You get one of those, or even some of the VA loans. You got a lower interest, things like that. But anyway, I'm stick with the FHA because VA is a lot more stringent. I don't think you can necessarily walk into the house like that's not great because they like, yeah, this got to be on point. So let's go with the FHA option, get you one of those loans. But the point is, start smaller, go into it more strategically, and understand, okay, you can turn a $100,000 house into a $400,000 house if you properly structure it. So that is the way I would go into it, is understand your situation. If you can rent, I would, but if it's a situation where it just makes more sense to get a bigger place and you need to own this place, go ahead and get it, get something a little bit less great, clean it up. And then what I would do is now I would put somebody in there, let them rent it. And it's almost like a rinse and repeat kind of process. Now, you're going to have a family member that supports that. That's something else. That's a conversation you have with your significant other. Hey, listen, this is the plan. This is the vision. This is why we're going to do this. It might be a little inconvenient at the beginning, but overall, we're going to be in a position now where hey, look, we're not paying for where we stay at, and we got all these other places. And now we're building a better system for ourselves. Again, we're not buying for America. We're buying for ourselves. And so that is the way I would approach either of those situations.
No, that's good. I would just say, does my dream life have a mortgage?
That's terrible. I didn't even answer that question.
No, 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 no. I just double back. And you just said it depends. It depends right now. You answered that. You said right now, no. For you, in your current situation, you will find that renting is most advantageous. Now, for me, do I see having a mortgage in my dream life? Yes. Am I the one with the mortgage? Absolutely not. Will
Nice.
I continue to create entities that will then get mortgages, and then those mortgages would be leveraged by somebody else paying rent or something? Absolutely. And a aggressive real estate lifestyle that I want for myself, I do plan to have a mortgage And really, the real reason is it doesn't even make sense to pay off a home. So now I'm taking on all the risks when I do that. If I go and cash out on a house, I take on all of the risks. Why would I want to do that when I can just pay this thing over time? If something happens, it burns down, the bank gets paid their little bit of money, the insurance gives me enough to roll back over into another mortgage, and then I'm good to go. I'm not locked into something I paid 200,000 for. Now I'm arguing with the insurance company who wants only pay me 180
Right.
based off of depreciated value. And nah, fam, I'm gonna play the game like y'all play the game. But that is where we're at. And yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at on that. But I will say we went a little bit over time, and I'm definitely okay with it because it was a great conversation. We'll jump
Absolutely.
into the next episode next week, and I hope y'all ready for another controversial topic because that's what we do around here.
Yes, sir.
I love it. So before we get out of here, Mike, is there anything that you're working on in the grand order that you want to tell us about?
Yes, I've actually recently added some small mini courses. Some of my clients, we all know right now my flagship product is the 60-day financial reset, where essentially we are looking to first and foremost work on the mindset you have around your current finances, get yourself out of debt, and learn how to start making that money work for you. This is a nice 60-day program where I take you through 8 weeks of a curriculum where you're going to understand first and foremost how to work with the money that you currently have, allocate it in a smart way, and start making that money work for you. But what I've decided to do is I actually want to put it down into a little bit more micro pieces, more digestible for my audience or for somebody whose pocket may necessarily not be ready for the 60-day financial reset. And it still gives people an opportunity to learn. So what I'm doing is getting ready to start a bi-weekly mini courses on various financial topics that gives individuals opportunity to come in at a lower price point, get the initial nuggets, and maybe you could piece together your financial plan based on the nuggets that I give you. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying, as they say, pennies turn to dollars. Little small pieces of information can turn into a huge plan. So in my efforts to make this accessible to as many people as possible, I thought this would be a great evolution to the 60-day financial reset. So I'm really excited about getting that started. If you guys want more information about that, by all means, I'll put details down in the description and we can get you guys on the right side of this money, man.
No, appreciate you for sharing that, man. Once again, definitely appreciate it. We'll see you on the next episode, and you might want to double back on there. You're going to miss something. That's just how I feel. I done listened to a couple of episodes 3 times, and I was like, damn, I can't believe he said that. Or I can't believe I said that. And you're going to miss a gem, so you may need to double back. But hey, we out of here. 7 cents. Appreciate y'all.
Peace.
You just tapped into the 7 cents, where the mind meets the money and the legacy gets built.
It's your boy Money Mike, the financial Thanos, snapping one myth at a time and leaving no financial lies standing.
And I'm Coach RL, mind right, money right, legacy locked in. If today's episode gave you game, make sure you rate, review, and share it with someone.
Hey, follow us on all platforms and keep the conversation going, guys. DM us your questions, your myths, and your money wins.
Until next time, think deeper, move smarter, and keep building.
This is the 7 Cents Podcast. We out.